we actually talk about the fact that poverty is a mentality that's actually passed down from one generation to the next generation. Unless you break that thing, you'll end up doing the same thing that your parents are doing and managing the money the same way your parents manage money. And then you're just passing poverty on from one generation to the next generation.
Well, it just seems like it's everywhere. You can't hardly have a conversation with somebody this day and time with the economy being brought up and just how the dollar just doesn't go as far. So why are so many people struggling with their finances right now?
Well, the reason that so many people are struggling with their finances right now is because of, well, obviously it's because the finance industry is really putting a full court press on people, you know, to get them in debt and keep them in debt. But there's basically three reasons that people are struggling with their finances. The first reason is their personal choice. People are actually going in and making a choice to go, and nobody's actually forcing them into debt. But because of the fact that these principles are not being taught in school anymore, people are learning how to handle and manage their finances, you know, based on their family, their friends, you know, their relatives, and of all things, television advertising. You just take an illustration of this. You know, the average teenager right now, when they go out, they have to have all of the modern clothes, all of the latest fashion, and what happened. And that attitude has actually permeated our entire society. And so as a result, people are going further and further into debt, and they are struggling. And they start off by buying a car, then once they have a car, they go in and they get an apartment, a rent apartment, get clothes, put it on credit, and the next thing you know, they are locked in this cycle, and they don't know how to get out of it.
Well, most people know when they're buried in debt, but what about people who aren't in debt right now? In the future, they could be. What are some of those warning signs that someone is heading in that direction?
Well, you know, the obvious ones is if you already having a problem paying your bills, you late, you know, making your credit card payments or your other bills. But one of the biggest things that we teach in our courses and in our workshops is that if you're in a situation where you don't have some reserve, you are in financial bondage, or you are in bondage to debt, or you heading there fast. Each person should have from 3 to 6 months living expenses in their short-term savings account for emergency type situation. Another way you can tell if you're in the bondage to debt is if you have a situation where you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. Okay, you know, some people actually have credit card debts and what have you, and they taking one credit card to pay off another credit card. So the thing is, if you don't have an emergency fund, if you're behind in your bills, or if you spending every dime that you get from paid and living from payday to payday or paycheck to paycheck, you need to sit down and take a look at your personal finances, because if you're not in trouble already, you'll be in there as soon as an emergency happens, and emergencies always happen, then you'll end up in a situation where you have to go further and further in debt just to keep ahead.
Well, thank you very much for that. We're going to take a short break. You're watching the Financial Freedom Network. I'm Eric Johnson here with Dwight Nichols. We'll be back in just a moment.
Pick up the phone and call the number on the screen to order the Debt Freedom Program by Dwight Nichols. Discover information and tips that will help you get out of debt and regain control of your finances. In this special TV offer, find out how to reduce or eliminate your credit card debt altogether and get practical tips to help you achieve long-term financial independence. Remember, this offer is only available through this special promotion. In this special TV offer, you will receive Dwight's book, God's Plan for Your Finances, and his new practical application workbook, From Debt to Freedom, which provides a step-by-step guide to get out of debt, complete with forms and practical tips. If you order today, you'll receive 2 free bonus offers: his special report, How to Get Out If You Are Already In Over Your Head, and his incredible CD, How to Create and Manage Wealth. That's a $50 value for only $24.95. If the Debt Freedom Program does not help you get out of debt, return it within 30 days and keep the special report and the Wealth Creation CD just for trying the debt-free program.
We are back here on the Financial Freedom Network, here again with Dwight Nichols. I want to get right back into talking about credit card debt. Why is it that credit card and the finance industry seems to want to keep you in debt?
Well, you know, that's really a simple answer to that question. Is that's how they make a profit. That's how they make their money. The more people that they can get in debt and keep in debt for a longer period of time, the more profits that they can make. And the thing that we have been discovered as we've been working with people and helping people break free from debt, that the finance industry the profits that they make are huge profits. I mean, it's really obscene the amount of money that they make, because they got so many thousands of people, and then what they do is they have all of these fees. Number one is if they have a situation where you come in and you get a credit card, they lock you into the system, okay, at a low rate, and then once they get you locked into the system at a low rate, they keep things going, and then all of a sudden, if you are late by 1 day, then what they do is they jack your interest rate up from depending on the interest rate you had in the beginning, from 8% all the way up to 21%. And they can actually literally go over 30% for just the interest rate. Then on top of that, they add anywhere from $30, $35 to $45 for fees. And then on top of the fees, you know, they have a late charge or over the limit fee. So what happens is the credit card companies, in essence, can turn around and charge you as much fees. The interest rates are ridiculous. So what happens is a person ends up think he's going to the banks, you know, to get a credit card that's going to help them out, but what it's doing is putting them further and further in debt. We all can remember the days, you know, when the neighborhood banks were there. They were there basically to provide a service. But now, with the mergers and acquisition, most banks right now, they don't provide the service. Their main focus is the fees and the interest rate they get as a result of these loans. So what's happening is the average family is literally sitting ducks, you know, because of the lack of knowledge, because they don't teach the principles of how to manage personal finances anymore, and because of the advertising media. People are just sitting ducks in a position where they are pawns in the hands of the finance and the credit card industry.
Well, it does seem like 10, 15 years ago, it was a lot harder to get a credit card than it is these days with the mailers and everything that's come out. What are the methods that the finance companies are using these days to get people into debt?
It's amazing. The credit card industry alone send out something like 4 billion with a B pieces of mail every year. And they send it out to anybody. You know, it doesn't. Even if you've been in bankruptcy and just got out of bankruptcy, you know, they'll send you one of these cards. You remember years ago, you know, you actually had to have a good bank record. You had to have history, and you had to have money in the bank in order to get a credit card. But they have found that they can make more money by just pulling everybody in and then hitting them with these large fees and then extracting as much money out of them as they possibly can. And then when the people file bankruptcy, they just move on to another. But basically what they do is just write the debt off.
Right.
And then once they write the debt off, you know, then they take that on their profit and loss statement, and then they just move on to another company. So as a result, the credit card industry now, instead of providing a service to the community, they are actually enslaving people and putting them in bondage to debt. This is really a serious problem that we're having in our country on middle class, low income families. And now, you know,